World CP Day. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to get some more lights on here. Hang on a minute. And if you are joining me today, please drop me a little note and let me know that you can see and hear me. Today's going to be a brief session. I want to leave some time for questions, but I do want to go over some awareness pieces, and I do want to talk a little bit about some common exercises. I have a very large group that supports cerebral palsy users on vibration plates, using vibration guns. Really, it's evolved into many things, and it's gone well beyond cerebral palsy. I am very much symptom oriented. So if you are dealing with a condition, if you are dealing with a symptom itself can be kind of a universal thing between conditions. So a lot of the things that my families with cerebral palsy may be challenged with may also be a symptom, synonymous with other conditions, MS or fibromyalgia perhaps. So if you are joining me today, please let me know that you can see and hear me. Again, it's World Cerebral Palsy Day. And a few interesting facts. I'm going to keep most of this US based. That's where the majority of you are joining me from. But it is a global thing. Every year, October 6th is World CP Day. CP is the most common motor disability in childhood. And in the US in particular, it's estimated that 1 out of 345 children are dealing with one of a few types of cerebral palsy. It is more common in boys than in girls, and it is not diagnosed typically until a child is about 2 to 3 years of age. And these stats today are coming from a combination of U.S. Government org and some Cerebral Palsy Foundation sites. I like to cross-reference things. So in the U.S., they're estimating about 764,000 children and adults are currently dealing with a cerebral palsy diagnosis. And that's a diagnosis. There's probably many out there that are perhaps dealing with mild symptoms. It's not in a state of progression, or maybe just are not aware or do not have access to care to get that diagnosis. Approximately 500,000, so 500,000 children under the age of 18 are currently dealing with cerebral palsy. As I said, there's a few different types. And the most common type here just is spastic cerebral palsy, which is by a long shot the most common. People with spastics have increased muscle tone, typically as a feeling that the muscles are very stiff. And as a result, the movements can be kind of jerky or awkward or not as fluid as if the spasticity wasn't there. It's usually described by the part of the body that is being affected. So whether it's upper body, lower body, those arms specifically. There's dyskinetic cerebral palsy, which is more about having problems controlling the movement of the hands, specifically the arms, the feet, the legs, making it difficult to walk. So it's not so much a spasticity thing, but it's actual control of that motor function. And each of these are different areas of the brain that which result in different physical symptoms. The movements are, like, as I said, uncontrolled. They can be very slow. They can be very rapid. They can be jerky. Again, not as fluid. Sometimes the face and tongue can be affected by this. And you can have a hard time sucking, swallowing, talking. Persons with this type of CP have muscle tone that can change as well. So varying from tight to loose, it's kind of like having astigmatism in your eyes. So the muscles can be, more spastic, like in the first type, but they can also be loose and lack tone. And this is not just a day, every day is different thing. This can change throughout the course of a single day. So you may start your day with a lot of tension or tightness and those muscles very stiff. And then, maybe later in the day they're loose. And, for all of these different reasons, the motor skills, the movements that you're trying to perform are affected. There's ataxic cerebral palsy, which are problems with your balance, your coordination. You may be unsteady when you're walking or feel unstable. You might have a hard time with quick or fast movements that need a lot of control. things like writing or catching or playing ball. You might have a hard time controlling hands and arms in particular, perhaps when you're going to reach for something, or you have the ability to grab that in a fluid motion or properly, and trusting yourself can be a challenge. And then there's mixed cerebral palsy. So out of the different types, the symptoms, some people have symptoms that fall into more than one area of the CP diagnoses. And the most common type of mixed CP is spastic dyskinetic. So the first two, where the muscles are tight or perhaps not completely controlled from time to time. We're going to talk about a few ways that LifePro, of course, can help you improve your situation if you are dealing with cerebral palsy. A lot of times the families I'm dealing with are already considering vibration plates because they've done their homework. I work very closely with a few children's hospitals in the US that recommend them as a pre and post therapy tool. So I am not a doctor. I do not diagnose, do not treat. I just have a lot of intricate, very in-depth experience, particularly with the vibration plates, the guns, and some other technologies. And LifePro, 15 years later, 17 years later after I got into all of this, LifePro actually makes a whole bunch of devices that are much more affordable for you to take home. So today we're talking about what can you do at home for your cerebral palsy. And, in a perfect world, you'd have someone coming to your home, motivating you, helping you do all of the right exercises. So all you have to do is show up and do the work. But the reality is many of my families lack access to therapy, sometimes lack access to funds for therapy. You're not getting a lot of direction after you've had some procedures, and a vibration plate when you're dealing especially with a child, I expect you to be guarded and somewhat fearful because you don't really know what it is. So first things first, a vibration plate is just an environment. It is an environment that makes those exercises you're supposed to be doing, or the stretches. It can even help you with the massage. A lot of the stuff that you as moms and dads or as therapists are doing physically with your arms, your hands, and your bodies, it takes time. And depending on how the symptoms are, sometimes it takes longer than others to, relieving that tension in the hamstrings before your little one goes to bed is a big one that comes to mind. So there's lots of ways that you can use a vibration plate as an environment. Think of it as an environment that makes the exercises, the stretches, the things we should be doing or are doing already, less taxing on you, the person using the machine, your child, you personally. It makes the exercises more effective in a shorter period while bringing less impact to the equation. When you're dealing with things like poor mobility, uncontrolled muscular movements, and you're trying to gain strength and mobility, anything that we can do to reduce the amount of time that you spend exercising is not only going to reserve your energy levels and help with the fatigue if that's a symptom, but just the nature of a vibration plate used in oscillating mode. Everything we're doing today is functional, oscillating movement only. It mimics walking. So many of my therapists will use a vibration plate, not in a fancy way. They may just stand you on it for 30 seconds to a minute to improve your balance. It's that effective before you're doing other exercises. For a lot of my moms at home, a simple little application like that might make a visit to the therapist, or on your way to school, or once you come home from school. So a vibration plate certainly can help you with the exercises and the stretches and that work you're supposed to be doing. But it's an amazing lifestyle tool to just help you manage symptoms as they arise, be it pain, be it balance, be it, weakness. There's so many things that your body benefits from when we can get circulation and lymphatic fluid moving. So let's get to the funner part, the demo part. I do want to mention today, I woke up this morning and got an email from LifePro, and there is 20% off select items today. So if you are joining me today because you're thinking about buying a vibration plate and you were all confused as to what type to get, it's not so much a type thing. I've done a couple of sessions on types of machines and what's best for you. But when you're dealing with cerebral palsy, Machine selection, which I want to touch on briefly. I don't want today to be a sales spiel, but you'll notice I've got some littler platforms set up today. My experience is primarily with, the under 8, under 6, dealing with cerebral palsy. So I like little machines that are light and portable because my moms, my dads, my therapists, my care providers tend to move them around. And one of the things that I love about finally convincing you to use a vibration plate is that one of the first things that improves is that balance. So the need for mobility aids or handles where you're in a position where you're able to weight bear, you're going to progress quickly and really not need the stability tools maybe that you had when you started. So today we're just going to go over a couple of basic variations and in 3 kind of ways. We're going to do a standing position, we're going to do a seated position, and we're going to do a seated on the ground position. I want to give you guys some examples of massage because, again, many of the big things that my families struggle with is the amount of massage time that you have to spend in the evening. So the first thing we're going to start with is just a little bit of a warm-up. So anytime you're using your plate, if you haven't been terribly active or it's early in your day, I just want to loosen you up a bit. And when you're using a machine seated, if you're starting for the first time, if you're dealing with poor mobility, fatigue, if you're dealing with many of the symptoms that I started this session with, I recommend starting seated. Now, as an adult, you may want to look at a bar height stool, a counter height stool, something that gets your legs at least at a 90-degree angle or slightly higher. If you are a petite user, if you are a child, if you're smaller, a regular chair may work. The big thing is you want to make sure you're not sitting lower than a 90-degree angle. Long term, it may feel good, but it's not going to help you progress to more strength exercises. And the goal is to help you get to standing or a combination of standing and sitting as much as possible for the strength and the stability piece. So lesson number 1, when you are starting out on your plate, we are seated. You are always in control over the intensity. And what I mean by that is how strong the movement of the plate feels. And often everybody talks about settings or speeds or frequencies or programs. What I want you to understand is the most important factor in this style of movement is actually the amplitude. And amplitude is just a big fancy word for how far apart or how close your feet are to the center. If you, as an adult, if you think back to the playground days, if you've ever been on a teeter-totter, I hope I'm not dating myself, but if you're way out on the outer ends of that teeter-totter versus in the center, the amount of swing or movement is much less or much more. So on your vibration plate, closer is where I want you starting. I want you to experiment, with your feet and the position of them, and you'll know what I'm talking about very quickly. And when you're dealing with a little body, you want to start little. We're not dealing with less movement. You're not dealing with as much mass. And I depending on how you're feeling from day to day, your body absorbs it differently. It's very much an individual thing in how this feels. If you're also dealing with poor circulation, paralysis, any of those things, sometimes sensation is increased as we fire up the central nervous system. So I don't want anybody getting spooked if they do have sensation where you normally would not. There is no exact setting. There are some studies out there, but I have experienced that with users at a variety of speeds. And I really think it's due to the increase in circulation, lymph, muscle, the spasticity loosening up. There's many reasons I feel it may be occurring, but the tolerance of how wide or how close your feet are on any one position is very much an individual preference thing. So, as we grow into more exercises where we're challenging you, we'll talk about max width. But for now, I want you working no more than hip width apart for the body that's on the plate. And the first little tip I'm going to give you, for those of you that are unable to stand on the plate, everyone has a ball. This one's got, I use all kinds of different sizes. You'll notice this one has a little bit of the air deflated out of it. Whoops. Look at that. getting a show today. What I like to do with this one to start building leg strength is we're going to take this ball and we're going to place it just between the legs above the knee, being held by the thighs. Now, if you are working with a close foot distance, a little body, you might want to work with a smaller ball. But the reason we've got a little deflated, what I want you working on is good core posture. Core strength is I know you all need it, you all want it, but we're going to start being aware of our core and good posture first before we get to some of the core stuff. I want shoulders back, focus on good breathing. If you're not doing breathing exercises, this is a great little exercise to meditate too. So what we're going to do, timed with our breathing, these legs are straight up and down, feet are nice and flat where possible. What if we can't get our feet flat? I knew you were going to ask that question. Many of you are dealing with so much tightness in those lower legs. I know you can't get those feet flat. So go to your local sporting goods store, Walmart, invest $4 in a foam pool noodle. Start with the smaller size if you're dealing with a child. The larger size is more universal. Cut it in half. I like to cut one the width of my plate. I have several of these. You'll get 2 good chunks. Cut one in half this way. This is about depending on your foot and how much lift you need. So what we're going to do, think of a roller at the physio office. I'm sure many of you have used one. Okay. So we're going to put our ball back in place. Maybe I can't get my feet flat. So we're going to just wedge one of these under the heels. I prefer cut in half for my little feet because the little feet aren't as big. And it just gives you a little bit of support to bridge the gap until we can get those feet flat, and they will improve. So this one, with the heels lifted, you're going to feel it more prominently on the shins. What I want you to do with the ball between your legs is just do a nice big inhale and squeeze that ball. Hold for 2 to 3 seconds. Exhale and let go, not let go of it, but release the ball. So just time with your breathing. Inhale, exhale, and relax. And this is a really good way to start building up that inner strength on the outer thighs and the inner thighs. And the hips. I get a few phone calls and emails about the hips. I know that's an area of concern. This is a very mild way for any level of strength. I would suggest 3 to 5 reps. You could do more. It really depends on whether you're doing these exercises in complement to other things or to replace them. I'm not here to add another hour to your day. The biggest gift I can give you is showing you and helping you understand that this environment of the plate reduces the amount of time that you have to spend doing traditional floor-based exercises. So the next example we'll move to is a hamstring stretch. So seated, you can stretch your hamstrings. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep one foot on the plate. This is annoying me. We're going to start with our right leg because that's the one closest to the camera. And I want you, again, good posture. We're going to try and hold that core in. We're breathing. We're going to stretch this leg out. And I want you, depending on your range of motion and flexibility, you may not get straight like Debbie. You might look more like this, but to your range of motion and what it allows. For those of you that got game, I want your legs straight and I want that toe being pulled towards you. Hold for 2 to 3 seconds and relax. And do 3 to 5 reps per side. This is a great way to do it seated. If mom or dad, as your child grows, they get bigger, they get heavier. Sometimes, when you're able to pick them up and twist their bodies like a pretzel, it's no big deal. But as they grow and gain mass, you may need intervention. And this is a great tool to reduce the amount of time you have to spend doing your therapy. I'd rather you guys have more family time, okay? So 3 to 5 reps per side on this one. If any of my moms and my dads are dealing with sciatic issues on top of this from all the lifting that I know you're doing, there's a variation on this one that works really well. Lifting this leg in unison with your head. It's called the nerve floss. Look it up on Google. It's a good one. You get a little bit more into the hip socket. Variations. Your range of motion and your imagination are your only limitations. So again, this is just an environment, with a few modifications. 95% of the exercises that you need to be doing, your squats, your push-ups, whatever they are, can be done in this environment. So we're going to progress to standing. And for some of you, that's a very, very scary thing. So beside me, I have some mobility aids. This is another model, and I will post some models in the recording under the comments when I'm done today's feed. This is the Waver Mini, which is probably my number one favorite basic starting consumer grade plate. LifePro has amazing warranties. They provide a heck of a lot more support free to you than most companies, and they're in more places. So there's lots of reasons I like supporting LifePro. This model in particular fits really nice under other equipment if you're dealing with cages or standing aids. And it's light enough that a number of my clients have taken it with them on trips. So, if you're going to St. Louis or you're going for surgery, that's a common call that I get. I can't be away from my plate. I've been using it regularly. I encourage my families, my moms and my dads for these as well. But this one's light enough you can pack it with you as carry-on luggage, keep the box. This is another model sold on Amazon. It's the Trim Light. It does have handles. They're not something I would be doing, big 150 pounds weighted squats and using this to support you. But for a lot of my pediatric users, it's a great height. It adjusts. And this handle is optional. So it attaches under the underside of the plate. If you'd like to remove it, you simply have a few bolts to unhook and you can have this thing apart. Also a smaller device. This one has therapeutic bumps, the magnetic bumps on the plate. This one does not. If your plans for use are more primarily going to be weight bearing and standing exercises, I recommend a plate without those therapeutic bumps, or use a mat. For me personally, I like to get a little aggressive in some of my training. I like to add mass, and I find they're not so comfy on my feet because I'm a barefoot user. If you're using shoes, if you're using a mat, they don't tend to be an issue at all. But this model does have those. Now, the therapeutic bumps, if you find the majority of your time or a good portion of your time is going to be seated or massage exercises, you may like this style of plate. Just a little tip. This one is a little bit smaller than the Mini as far as physical plate surface. So the next thing I want to evolve to is a standing pose. So standing on the plate, I do not require something to hang on to. You may. This is a ladder that I made out of dowel. So if you don't have a lot of space, and IKEA used to sell these. I don't know if you can still get them new, but you can get them secondhand for sure. But just attach them to the wall so you've got something in front of you. And what's nice about a ladder is as you go lower, you've got support. Eventually, and I have every hope that if you stick with this diligently, you will be able to spend some time standing if you're not already. Weight-bearing exercises, standing exercises are going to do the best for your bone and your total body strength. Bearing our own weight is really what keeps our muscles, our stability, our core strength, a lot of things working properly. Now, I know many of you, as I said, are dealing with core strength issues. So any twisting exercises that you are doing now, maybe some torso twists if it's a tightness issue, maybe some pelvic tilts. Any exercises that you are doing standing can be done in the environment of the plate. It's just a matter of whether you need something to hang on to or not. To build leg strength, the very best bang for your buck to reduce time and build strength through the lower body, the ball that I showed you seated is equally effective in a standing position. So instead of doing a squat and then doing a separate exercise for the inner or the outers, you can use a ball. You can also use, if you're using a LifePro plate now or considering one, the mini bands that come with them are a nice alternative. They're more of a pull feeling, whereas the ball is more of a push. So you've got to decide what areas you're trying to focus on. Maybe you want to do a combination, but we'll use the ball for today. We're going to hold it in the same spot just above the knees, between the thighs. Knees are always slightly bent. Make sure the majority of the weight is on your heels. Again, Guess what? If you're having problems and we can't get those heels on the ground, get that pull noodle back in there. Add that back in. Might be a good idea to have your stool just for safety. Add this back here. I could do this all day long. There's always a way to modify. That same exercise that you're doing on the floor can be done on the machine with a little creativity, okay? So if range of motion allows and you're stable, I want you to bend. Get into a little bit of a squat. This is going to do a lot more for the leg strength, the glutes, than standing, okay? If you need stability, put a chair back in front of you. Maybe you're using the ladder system, and just hold still. You don't need to physically move up and down. You can very quickly identify where the load is being placed. So if there's a specific area that you're trying to target, maybe you've got a weak side, left or right, you could shift the weight slightly to the left or shift the weight slightly to the right. The ball not only improves leg strength, but I bet many of you are having this kind of an issue, okay? It's awesome for just keeping it that way too. And if you don't have a ball, the larger pull noodle for smaller users works as well. You can just put a pull noodle between the legs. And this sometimes is a little bit easier to work with as a mom or a dad or a therapist. But it is going to bring the feet a little bit closer than working with something like a ball. Okay? So experiment. The biggest thing I want you guys to learn with your plates is not only that they're an environment that make the exercises easier and more effective, but they're fun. I have never met a kid that didn't like a vibration machine. You know, they like to stand on them and make these funny voice sounds. And, you know, I'm going to get into trouble sometimes when I say this, but you really can't go too long. Many of you want to know durations. You know, how long should I do this? Just like exercise, you know, there's two things you're pushing for, feel good or fatigue. So if you're pushing for fatigue, you know, you need to be doing positions that challenge you personally already on the ground. You know, you can't stand here and the machine's going to do all the work for you. This is a starting point if you're not doing those types of exercises now. But, you know, work within your range of motion. What's challenging for you personally as a user? And, you know, you can modify it for good days and bad days. You know, and as things begin to progress, you know, we start getting rid of some of the toys and get more functional, okay? So the squat is the very best, number one, bang for your buck exercise. The next evolution from there that I would love to see more of you doing, but I think it's a bit of a fear thing because the balance isn't quite there yet. Once you realize just standing on the plate, doing some basic exercises, you know, maybe just playing catch with your kid while they're on the plate, 30 seconds to a minute, the balance will improve. And functionally, getting up out of your chair, we all do it several times a day, some of us with less challenge than others. You know, if this is you trying to get up out of your chair, we got to work on these legs. So sit to stand is an exercise many of you are doing now. You can do sit to stand on your vibration plate. Reduce the time. You're going to fatigue a lot quicker. And it's also destabilizing you, but in a very controlled manner. So it's improving the balance, which is, like I said, some of the challenge in doing that position on a day-to-day basis. So lean forward if you need to a little bit. Again, I love using the ball just to keep the legs from collapsing inwards. We're going to stand up. Perhaps you get into a squat. See how long you can hold it. Hold. Once you're fatigued, the chair acts nicely as a safety device too if you're pushing yourself in your squats. But, you know, 2 to 3 reps of a sit to stand. I do this with a lot of my seniors as well. This is a great exercise to just improve your daily function. Forget running marathons and climbing mountains. So that's seated and standing. You know, it's not always about a very big routine. Most of you have exercises you are doing or are supposed to be doing regularly now. This is just an environment that makes them more effective and less time and effort on your part. So let's get into some massage. Massage. Now, if you are dealing with a little itty bitty body, you know, I know many of my moms, when I first started working with the Cerebral Palsy community, many of you were spending hours massaging the spasticity in the legs, just so your poor child can have straight legs and have a good night's sleep. Some of you are using splints still to this day, I'm sure. I need a slurp of Java. What I can tell you is it may not happen in the first or the second or even the third session, but the biggest gift that my families have taken advantage of with their vibration plate is, I'm not saying stop all your exercises, all your therapy, but in complement with what you're already doing, the massage benefits of using a vibration plate when your children are little, you can maneuver them and you can pick them up and lay their body on them, even if you're dealing with some paralysis, okay? As your child gets bigger and grows, it becomes a little bit more challenging. But if we're working on the range of motion, hopefully that will improve. So I want to show you my 2 favorite massages for when you're dealing with CP, and it's going to address that tightness that develops in the calves and the back of the hamstrings, okay? If you are sensitive to the skin surface, you bruise easily, you may want to mat up. And what I mean by mat up is use the mat that came with your machine. If you did not get a mat with your machine, it's a nice big thick yoga mat cut to the size of your machine is a really good idea. So you're going to place your calves sitting on the ground, or Life Pro also sells the Aeroflex step. If you want to be more level on with the machine, you could prop your your bum and your hams up on the aerobic step. For this one, my legs are going to be longer than your child's, but you want the feet just past so that the heels are hanging freely. Many of you are dealing with heel cord issues. So remember how I had you cut up all your pool noodles earlier? Okay. If you are specifically dealing with a heel cord issue, take your half one, lay the heel cord on it. Take the other one if you need to. I don't need to, but you might need something to rest the back of your knees on. But just resting and get the heel cord, the arch of the foot, the back of the knee. There's certain areas that don't actually come in contact with the machine. So I'm just using the pool noodle piece to kind of get the vibes up into the foam. Now, the earlier exercises, I always recommend doing everything with a closer setting at a mid speeds as a starting point. It's less choppy, it's less jarring. Think conservative, not slow. On massage, it kind of depends on what feels good and your sensitivities. I prefer to crank it right up for massage. I do slow on camera so you can see the movement, but I would recommend, if let's say your machine has 100 speeds, I would recommend starting in the 60 to 70 range for massage on the higher end. It's going to be more tonic. You're not standing on the machine structurally. Your body's not supporting your own weight. You're just relaxed, and I think you'll find it's much more tolerable and effective if you're using those higher speeds. I will caution you, if you are dealing with paralysis or poor sensation or just users in general, you may feel itchy or pins and needles, especially with the massage. That's just a newbie thing. Some people are more sensitive than others. It boils down to circulation and lymphatic moving. If you're dealing with severe conditions like mast cell or things that may stimulate a histamine response, I have that in my other group. This is no different than exercise. You know what you need to do to be proactive. But for the most part, most people do experience a little bit of itchiness. So just something to be aware of. It'll dissipate with regular use after a week or two. It's just a newbie thing. So you'll notice I've moved forward now a little bit. And I've got the full pool noodle under the back of my knee. This is a great little exercise now that we've kind of loosened up those heel cords. You can just encourage lifting. This is a great way to stretch those calves seated. You may need to, as mom or dad, assist and hold this foot, but it's a lot easier and more effective than had you done it just on the floor or in bed. This is also going to start developing a little bit of leg strength with these lifts in the knees, the shins, and the top of the quads, okay? Just a variation I wanted to show you. If you're dealing with knee issues, that's a nice way just to massage the back of the knees. So the calf massage, this is an area of tightness. Yes, I know we've warmed up doing the heel cords. We're now doing the calves. If you want to try stretching in this fashion, just another variation. You can pull those calves towards you. You can actually lay right down on the ground if you really want. I'm a little bit far away for this. If I go, this is my favorite way to massage my calves. But the problem is that I lay there for more than I need to and just get lazy. This is an awesome way to massage the calves, especially if you're dealing with lots of pooling of fluid, swelly ankles and knees towards the end of the day. And it's also a great way to get relaxed before you get into bed. So that's just another variation. The last little one I want to show you, we're going to sit right on it. Now, in dealing with cerebral palsy, I have probably been sitting young children on vibration machines longer than most people. Why? I was a family studio with my husband for many, many years, and many of our users brought their children with them. And, do you know how hard it is to keep a kid off a machine like this when mom's allowed? So we learned very early on that, kids are fine. They're just smaller versions of us, and the machines are really nothing to fear. They're just movement, and a kid will tell you before anyone whether they like something or not. And if they don't like it, they'll just get off. Kids are a little bit more in tune with what their body likes and what it doesn't like. So this one here, because again, I'm longer in the legs, you should be able to get the entire hamstring and the butt cheeks on the plate if you're working with a child. If you are an adult and you're taller than, let's say, about 5'2", 5'3", you may need to do the hamstrings and the glutes if that's what you're aiming for in 2 reps. But this one here, the hamstrings are on the plate. The intensity or how strong this position, same with your calf massage, wider is more shake, closer is less shake, just like when you're standing or seated with your feet on the plate. So for this one, start with the tailbone just off the plate. There's no harm in getting a little bit of head vibration. It just takes some getting used to. In fact, once you understand how to navigate with it, it's a really nice way to relieve tension in the upper body. But I want to get you used to this first. So tailbone just off, especially if you're dealing with a very small user. And I want these legs, the lower legs, nice and straight. And we're just going to reach for the toes until you can feel the pull. Okay? If you just want to massage, there's a couple. You can also just lean back on your hands. You can come back on your forearms. It really depends on what. This is a really nice way to loosen up the hips. Experiment with your angles and how you're standing, how you're sitting. You'll feel the vibration and the stimulation going to different areas based on your position. So I want you to experiment. I want you to be comfortable just trying things. And if you've overdone it on any of these exercises or using the plate in general, it's going to be no different than if you've over-exercised anywhere else. You're going to be a little fatigued. If the spasticity is there, maybe just do some massage and some stretching and skip the exercises. Be mindful of what else you are also doing when you start to begin using your vibration plate. So if you're already doing 3 hours of therapy today, don't come home and do another hour and a half on your plate. Use it to complement. Just use it for recovery. Use it for warm-up. Use it just to boost your balance for a minute or two before you head out the door. So it's not always the 10, 15-minute workout. And it certainly isn't something I want to encourage you add in the form of another huge task on top of the therapies many of you are already doing. The goal that I've been successful with many of my users in my group is using the plate for the environment that it is to reduce the therapy time and increase the family time. For my therapists out there, if you can get more done in your time with your patients because you've got a tool that gets that body prepared for whatever it is that you're going to do next to it, or it's going to expedite recovery so you can do more training while they're there. It just takes a little bit of time and experience to understand how this complements your other devices, your red lights, your infrareds, your massage gun, your manual therapies. There's a vibration machine is just a no-brainer. It just takes a little bit of time and experimentation to understand how it's going to complement your therapy or your exercise regime. So with that, I'm going to come to the camera now and see who I've talked to sleep. Or perhaps you're all inspired and you're out there doing all the exercises that you now know how to do. Today, like I say, is World Cerebral Palsy Day. I'm going to invite any questions or comments you may have. Hello, Diana. Diana says, my mom is 84 and is recovering from a broken ankle. Can she benefit from this? It depends where she's at. If you have a machine, this isn't related to cerebral palsy, but it sort of is. If you're in a situation where you've had surgery or a break, it's very common, especially if you've been using a machine, you kind of want to get back to it. You miss it, you crave it. And we know the potential that it has to expedite recovery. Diana, it takes a little bit of experience, but the best way that your mom could use your machine is first understanding where she's at in that recovery. If she's not to be moving things around or bearing weight at this point, you shouldn't do anything with the machine on that ankle. But it's the other side that I always think about, the one that's doing all the work, the one that's bearing the weight for her. It could certainly use some attention. So there's a couple of things that you can do. You could, if you've got one with handles, you could have her stand on just one good leg if she's strong enough to do that, and just bend, keep this one off. If she's not able to stand on her own, I don't know if you have the Aeroflex step. You should totally get one if you don't. Put the good leg on the machine. If she's able to bear weight at this point, put the bad leg on something solid off the machine, and you can give this good leg some attention. You can also, if she's not to be bearing weight, this is totally a depends thing. So she's like, if it's this week, she broke it, it's too soon. But again, she could use it seated, putting the good side on the plate, resting the broken side off the plate, prop it up somehow, just to give this other leg some attention. And, stand up on that good leg. Give the one that she's got to rely on a little bit of attention if possible. But I suspect if she's elderly and she's had a recent break, she's probably dealing with some pain, probably some swelling. And she's definitely in recovery mode. I would suggest for a period of time, seated only. If she is bearing weight or beginning to, a lot of the seated exercises I started at the beginning of this set would be applicable as well. With injuries or surgeries, again, it's the amplitude. It's not the shake or how long or what exercise. It's how much you're shaking. So bring those feet closer to reduce versus wide and choppy. I hope that translates. And Diana, if I've missed you and you have other questions or anyone else has questions related to today's session, please tag me at Debbie with a Y on either the VIP or the main page, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. If you are dealing with cerebral palsy and you are looking at using a vibration plate gun, a gun, infrared therapies, PEMF, any of the things that Life Pro offers. Primarily, my wheelhouse is anything vibration, but everything is vibration. Light is vibration. PEMF is vibration. They're just different kinds of waves. So over my almost 2 decades that my husband and I have been in these technologies, there's a lot of things we've combined vibration plates with. And this is how we know there's such a catalyst to so many other therapies and exercise modalities. So there's nothing a vibration machine can't complement or improve, in my opinion. It's a matter of understanding how to modify for your needs and essentially aligning proper exercise positions, stretches, whatever the moves are with the overall goals of you, the user. So I want to thank you guys all for joining me. Happy Friday. It is Thanksgiving weekend up in Canada here. So Monday, happy Thanksgiving to everyone up on the Canadian side. I look forward to seeing all of you Monday for a session. Yes, I will be here nagging you in some way, shape, or form. We'll get that posted here soon. I look forward to seeing you at my regular time Monday of 7 p.m. Eastern. No, pardon me. What am I saying? 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday. You guys have a great weekend. Don't work too hard. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.